So I wanted to start with not necessarily the answers, but with some questions that you should really ask yourself before you decide to plan an event. So that's what these look like. So one of the key distinctions we're going to come back to over the course of the presentation is the difference between hosting an event versus sponsoring an event. So there's a couple of examples we'll get into later, but basically the difference is if you are hosting an event, that's an event that's put on by your organization that's taking on most of the responsibility of making sure the event runs smoothly. Whereas if you're sponsoring something, the idea is that that's an opportunity for you to gain access for your brand or your magazine to an event without having to do a lot of the heavy lifting. Also important to consider, what are the goals of your event? This is a thing that we often find we need to get really clear about with clients before we start an event is, what are the goals? How will you measure success? We've put a couple of things up here. Increasing subscribers, accessing a new audience. There's other goals we'll get into over the course of this. Also very important, who is the event for? This sort of goes with the top bit there about some of the goals, but who is the event for? Your current audience or a new audience. Then also very important, especially in this day and age, what resources will you need to commit to the event, time, money, advertising, etc. And also, who are your partners? So in terms of partners, who's going to help you promote the event? Who's going to help you with programming for the event? These are all things we'll sort of want you to think about before you even start an event. Hosting events versus sponsoring events. Who is the event for? Is it for your existing audience or a new audience? So for example, the Geist workshops, something we're going to talk about today, those are for an existing audience, whereas our sponsorship at Geist of the DOXA Film Festival was an attempt to build a new audience. So rather than put on our own film festival at Geist, we decided to sponsor the DOXA Film Festival, which is a fantastic event. We'll get into some of how that worked in a minute. Once you determine the above, so sponsoring an event versus hosting the event, it also determines how you promote the event and also can determine some of your goals. So for example, if it's accessing a new audience via sponsoring an event, you're probably not going to get as many subscribers, especially on the first time that you sponsor that event. Goals. Okay, so this goes a bit more into the goals. I think a lot of times, I know from our own experience, we've always said, well, if somebody asked us what the goal of an event was, it was always to increase subscribers, right? Get more people signed up to be subscribers, drive circulation, et cetera, et cetera. Other goals, introducing the magazine to a new audience, providing additional value to the current audience, highlighting a change in the editorial focus of the magazine, increasing revenue. So that might be through subscription, but it also could be through sponsorship of the event or other partners that you bring onto the event who contribute money. Respond to an advertising category request for audience access. So for example, if an advertiser comes to you and they want to reach your student market, then perhaps creating an event for students would give you an opportunity to do that. Measuring goals. This is really important to remember, and I find, especially if you're doing an event for the first time, it's really important to remember, and that is how many times have you been at the event? And this is, for those of you who are familiar with it, the purchase funnel. So this is psychologically in your mind how we make purchasing decisions. So it starts with awareness, then after awareness comes opinion, then after opinion comes consideration, then after consideration comes preference, and then purchase. So again, if you're accessing a new audience with an event and it's the first time, the real goal is to build some of these two things, right? You're not going to get purchase out of that first event. And it's important to sort of recognize that, especially when considering the budget you're putting together for your event. Goals for first-time events. Okay, this is really important, and in a couple of slides, we'll get into how exactly to do this. Capturing contact information, email addresses, mailing addresses, phone number. This can be done via draw prize at the event. It's really important to not only focus on email addresses. I think a lot of people focus on getting that email address to that person. We've found that it's also important to capture mailing addresses and phone numbers because these are all different ways you can communicate with people, right? And some people, if they see, you're just collecting their email address, they might be shied away by that. They might think, oh, these guys are just going to send me more spam. Another important thing to do for a first-time event is gauge familiarity with your brand. So generally speaking at Geist, when we do events where we're sponsoring something else, at the beginning of the event, one of the things we ask for as part of the sponsorship is to get up in front of the audience at the event and ask them, holding a copy of the magazine, how many people are familiar. Imagine a magazine here. How many people are familiar with Geist? And you'll get people to give you a show of hands. And then you'll say, okay, how many people have never heard of Geist before, have no idea what's going on? And you'll get probably, if it's the first time at the event, you'll get mostly those hands. And so then you get the audience to work for you and you say, okay, those of you who are familiar with Geist, turn to the person next to you and talk to them about why you think Geist is amazing. And they'll do that. So that's, again, gauging familiarity with the brand of the magazine and also getting word of mouth to work for you, which is a really important marketing tool. That leads to the next point, which is get the magazine into people's hands with a pitch as to why they should read it. So wherever possible, we've done this a couple of different ways over the years, but make sure that whatever event you're doing, there's an opportunity for people to take the magazine home with them. All events, whether hosted or sponsored, need the following. Mandatory. If you take nothing else away from this, take this away from it. Promotion across all channels, very important, all channels of your magazine, print, online, social media, and also promotion by all partners of the event. So if you're putting on an event and you have sponsors for that event, it would be important for your partners to promote it as well as yourself. Multiple opportunities to interact with your magazine and subscribe, also known as a buying decision. So opportunities for people to subscribe, opportunities for people to take copies away. These are all things you want. Ability to connect with those who attend the event afterwards. So this goes back to this stuff here. Oops, where are we? This goes back to this. So capturing this information so that after the event is over, you can reach out to those people and say, you were at this event. Did you like the magazine? Would you like to subscribe? Oops, we're getting too far ahead of ourselves. Also, most importantly, pictures of the audience enjoying the event. This is something that I think a lot of times people forget to do or don't do very well. Sandro's got some excellent stuff on this that he's going to share with you, but very, very key for next year, for the event the following year, people enjoying themselves at the event, because the first year of the event, people will be unfamiliar with it. They might not know what they want to say, whether they want to go or not. But a few pictures of people enjoying themselves at an event will help you for the next year. Subscription offers. Very important if you're doing subscription offers at an event, and we learned this with the Geist workshops. Subscription offers should be linked to the ticket purchased for the event. In other words, if you are selling tickets at an event, that is included with a subscription to the magazine for a year. Already a subscriber, we have run into this too many times. People say, well, I'm already a subscriber. I already get your magazine, I'm done. That's totally fine. You can extend your subscription, or even better, and we really recommend this, give it to a friend. So if I go to an event and I'm already a Geist subscriber, I can give that Geist subscription to Sylvia, and that will get her interested in the magazine, right? Otherwise, should be an offer stapled on the cover of the magazine. So if in a case you're giving away free magazines, there should be a subscription offer for somebody to make a buying decision later. And it looks like this. So this is an event. The Ryberg Geist was a partner of that event. This was a few weeks ago. So really clearly, there's a special offer. 4 issues for only $15. That's way below any other offer we have at Geist. Fill out the form. So really simple. These get stapled to the cover of the magazine, or sometimes on the back cover, depends. Fill out the form below and give it to a member of the Geist staff. If you're already a Geist subscriber, you can still renew at this special price. So this is the idea behind this is you're at the event, people get the magazine, they give these out, and then literally after the event is over, people will come by with this filled out and give it to you. Expiry date, also very important. We've had people try and cash these in a year and a half later. They're like, oh, I finally decided to do this kind of thing. So very important to have an expiry date, and that's pretty much it. Event budgeting, very important. Okay, so there's different kinds of items to consider on a budget. There's money, obviously, which you're probably going to have to spend depending on your event. Some money, unless some of you out there are sponsored by Staples, and then maybe they just give you posters and pens and things like that for free. Promotion and contra advertising. So again, these are all things that cost you, essentially money, right? Or provide value to the event. So it's always good, especially for funders, to have a sense of what the cost of the contra advertising is that you're donating to the event. And also, again, what the cost of your partner advertising is and their contribution to the event. The biggest cost of all is, of course, time, both staff time and volunteer time, not just on the day of the event. Very important. We've done a lot of events where we go to an event for the day and we go, well, that wasn't so bad. We only spent the time, Word Vancouver, for example, is a day long. But you have to consider all the time that you've put into the event leading up to that, all the preparation time, count all of that. Because what you'll find is it's actually a lot longer than just the one day. Volunteers, okay, big thing on volunteers. Some things to consider. What is the motivation of the volunteers? Very important to consider their motivation so that they get the most out of their experience. Work experience, skills training. A lot of universities and colleges have programs you can access. Some high schools have programs you can access where students are required as part of those courses to have some work experience. Attending the event for free. Sometimes this works, okay? Depends on the event, right? We'll get into an example in the next slide. Geist with the Folk Music Festival, where we did in fact provide volunteers with free tickets to the event in exchange for their time. Training, also very important. Important to make sure this happens. A lot of times people think, oh, this volunteer can just do this job. We've found in particular with pictures at events that it's often best to have a staff person do this. Not to say that the volunteers don't know how to take a picture, but for certain things you want a certain picture or a certain shot or a certain sponsor acknowledgement photo. It's better, unless you're training that volunteer on how to do that specific job, to sort of assign volunteers other tasks. Key is to have volunteers in positions where they can succeed, right? So that they feel good about themselves, so that the event goes well, so that they get some really good experience out of it. And most of the publications we work with, I should say all of the publications we work with, they will meet with volunteers before an event and sort of during the volunteer intake process to determine what their goals are. So this is a picture at the Geist Folk Festival. This is actually myself, and we weren't dating at the time, but she's now my fiance, Kathy, celebrating at the Geist Folk Festival. This is some of the swag we had. We had a big tent there. And so we were both motivated to do this because there was a free ticket to the Folk Festival. So you went to the Folk Festival in the morning and you volunteered at the Geist booth, and then in the afternoon and the evening you could go to whatever show you wanted. So it was a good deal as volunteers for us. Again, depends on what it is. It worked at the Folk Music Festival for us because we happen to both like folk music. It doesn't necessarily work if you're doing something where people don't want to necessarily be. Also along this line, think about time, right? So if you're a volunteer, do you really want to be at something for 8-9 hours of a day? You probably want to be there for 4 hours so you can enjoy the event. Again, talking to the volunteers, making sure they're on board is really key. Okay. Workshops. So this is the first case study we're going to talk about. These are the Geist workshops. Highly successful. They do very well. This is a screen grab from some workshops we did in the fall in the Geist newsletter. So this is actually a dedicated e-blast that we send out to our list. And we offer people, in this case, it was 2 workshops. So getting into print was one of the workshops with Blaine Nickerson, and then writing narrative with Carolyn Anderson. So There was individual workshops, which included a subscription, but then there was also a bundle price if you bought both workshops. So that's also something to consider. And again, if you went to the workshops, you've got a subscription included. This is the ad for the workshops. So this goes back to the promotional part of it, including as much promotion as possible. Generally, we say for most publications, give yourself 2 issues before you want to have the event. So if the event is in the fall, start promoting it now. Again, date, time, link to the website, blah, blah, blah. Also, the great thing about the ads is we do use it as an opportunity to promote our sponsors, which were the Listel Hotel and Hemlock Printers. Again, figure out, this is a $795 ad. So in terms of your budgeting, we ran 2 of these, right? Plus the e-newsletter, plus everything else. This is another example of, this is actually from the web page. So this was the web page that you're driven to. There's a dedicated web page on the Geist site that we put up for events specifically. And this had all the different workshops and options and whatever. The price was $50 for getting into print. You could either register by online or you could phone it in as well. This is what one of the workshops looks like. So this was a room that we rented. And so I think it was a couple $100, $200 or $300 for the day. So we ran the workshops concurrently. This is the audience. So again, we use this photo when we want to promote the workshops next year because it's a full house or there's a couple of empty seats, but it looks full. There you go. Evaluation forms, very important. Whatever event you do, wherever possible, do evaluation forms. So this is the Geist one for the workshop. Very important. Did it meet your expectations? Why or why not? What are the strengths of the course? What are the skills of tasks you wish to have been included in the course based on your experience and other writing and publishing courses? Are you considering taking additional courses? Please comment on the instructor. It goes through the whole 9 yards. Also very important, how did you find out about this course in the writing and publishing program? This is a way to measure the promotion that you do. So if you have an opportunity to ask that kind of question, also very important, did your employer contribute to your tuition? So again, asking if the employer contributed might get you to offer employers directly a group rate. Have you taken any other writing and publishing courses from SFU? So one of the workshops we did was a partnership with SFU. So again, if there's a couple of questions you want asked of the audience by a partner or a sponsor or something like that, here's an opportunity to do that. Again, you can also ask about demographic information. You can ask all kinds of things. We've done some before where we asked people if it was a gift for somebody and would they want future emails from us around certain holidays, things like that. Are you interested in taking courses from Distance Ed via web-based delivery? If so, what courses would you like to see offered via this method? So again, asking the current audience about future things they would buy into. So this is the DOXA partnership I talked about earlier. Some background on this. We started this promotion because we had been reviewing DVDs and independent films in Geist, and we wanted to expand our audience to film festivals. So we wanted to expand into the film festival crowd. We thought there was a natural fit there. We could have put on our own film festival. Would have cost us way more money than I care to think about, and would have taken a lot of time, which we didn't really have. So we've been at it about 5 years now, and every year we've seen that partnership grow. But in the first year, the goals were to get Geist into the hands of DOXA patrons, to sell subscriptions if we could, collect email addresses, create partnerships which helped demonstrate progress to funding bodies. So again, one of the goals of this partnership was to demonstrate to funders that we were reaching into new audiences. This is probably one of my favorite pictures from the DOXA partnership. This is at St. Andrews Wesley downtown. This is the opening from, I think, last year, maybe the year before. And so as part of our promotional partnership with DOXA, we got this fantastic slide that happens before each of the movies. This isn't the opening gala, but it ran before each of the movies. And so all these people saw this slide at the festival. These are people just sort of getting seated, but once they sat down, they also got to see the slide. And then there were copies of DOXA on the seat backs copies of Geist rather, on the seat backs that they got to pick up. So it was sort of a combination of seeing the magazine and then also seeing the branding. So this is on the DOXA website. You could add a Geist subscription, free Geist digital subscription, whenever you bought a ticket pack. We've done several of these. Some executions of it are a free digital subscription. Some executions of it are you can add a subscription to your ticket. Really depends on what the festival wants to do. We found both work really well. Again, capturing people's information and then being able to send them stuff afterwards. This is at the DOXA Festival itself, a woman with her Geist magazine. I had to stand there for half an hour and wait for somebody to sort of show the magazine as they were walking by. She seems fairly happy. We didn't actually get to talk to her because she was late for her movie, but again, a picture really is worth 1,000 words, as the saying goes. We've tried different ways to get the photo or to get the magazine into people's hands. We started originally with magazines on seatbacks. We found that didn't work as well because a lot of times people would take the magazine off the seatback and either sit it on the seat next to them, or they would have, there'd be at the end of the event, there'd be lots left over. People would just leave them behind. Found what works better is if you have a volunteer passing them out to people. It makes it a bit more friendly. People seem happier. At this event, they were being passed to her. There's a volunteer you can't see in this shot who was handing them out. So there you go. Again, on the cover, which you didn't see in this photo, but on the cover of this, there was a similar form to this. We make them specially for each event we do. So there's a DOXA one, there's a push one, there's a bunch of different ones. The dedicated DOXA blog. So this editorially is the dedicated blog that we set up during DOXA. So all of our social media around DOXA drives people to this. There was, maybe a dozen or so films that we reviewed, and the reviews are all on this dedicated page. So the next event I wanted to talk about was Word Vancouver. Again, this is a partnership that we had for two of our previous clients, the New Internationalist and Canadian Dimension. And our goals were to engage with the audience around an issue who is already familiar with the magazine, create broader partnership with Amnesty International, use an event included as part of the programming rather than simply selling magazines. So for this event, we actually created programming that was part of the festival itself. And we also wanted to test a joint subscription offer. So this is the tent that we had for Word Vancouver. This right here, you can't see it very well in the photo, is where we collected people's information. So there's a box, little plastic box right there that we use to collect people's address, phone number, and email address, and they could enter to win a prize pack from the New Internationalist, which I think was an atlas and a couple of other fair trade products. So this is before the event. That's why people are kind of standing around. And then this is the event itself. So what we did was on the day of the actual festival, we brought in extra chairs and this other table, and we hosted a panel on human rights. This gentleman right here is Derek O'Keefe, who's a freelance political writer and blogger and author. This is Hadani Ditmars, who's another freelance author and political correspondent. And then this is Dawn Wright, who's the president of Amnesty International. So really the point of this event was to demonstrate to the folks at Amnesty International that we could make a lot of noise on their behalf. And I think, you know, we managed to do that. This is a picture. So we had this sort of tent, and then we had 3 or 4 rows of seats back. So this is the back of the tent, and these were all people enjoying the panel. This was also mentioned in the Word on the Street program that went out all over the city. So it was part of their programming. And so the event was a great success. We captured a lot of people's email addresses and things like that. We spread a lot of goodwill about the event, and it went very well.